So today I had a few very good hours in the studio, and it felt helpful last time when I talked about my experience with my work. So I'm going to try that again. What I mean by good hours in the studio today means that I was really here, not trying to check the box and hurry through a bunch of tasks and tell myself I had spent my time here and look at my work, but I really sank in. So I'm not even sure what the timing of it was, but I had some time this morning when I first woke up before I did my exercise, physical exercise, and then I came in again at about 3:30 after I had done at about 4 o'clock after I had done my second round of exercise. And I do notice that my eyes feel tired in terms of my thinking mind. And maybe it's because I do spend a lot of my time before I come in here thinking about other things or what I want to do in here. And I feel like I want to close that gap in terms of thinking about and just come in and start doing. The other thing that I want to say is today I did not look at any social media whatsoever, and my life is much better for it. My mind is much clearer and able to, I think it really contributed to my just being able to dwell here in a deeper space and not feel pulled so much. I did have inputs. I did watch and read some of Jude Hill's pages. And it's I can't explain what I'm really drawn to there, but I am drawn to it. And it's a feeling I think I wrote in my notebook today. And that's another practice that I'm noticing really helps, is if I can sit and write about what I'm thinking about versus thinking about it. Just write it down. Write down what I'm experiencing in the studio and around inspiration. And what I wrote about inspiration in Jude Hill was that she interacts in her teaching in a way that is speaking from a place. It's not so much the content, but it's the tone of speaking from her practice, from inside her practice, versus to an audience that she's trying to convince or sell to. She's simply showing and sharing. And I feel like there's something there for me to remember and point to in my own practice, where I really aspire to teach from inside my own practice rather than a promotional, dogmatic way, which is a lot of the way I was taught. By my main teachers, and without realizing it. So, on to the work. I just started with this because it was a good intro, but I started in the morning by pulling out this. I was reading about the woven bases and Jude's process, and recalling that I had started something way back. I feel like I started this when I lived at Buena Vista, so that would have been 2018, late 2017 and 18 through 19. So this would have been leading up to before COVID and before my mom's diagnosis. So I had done all this invisible basting before. I don't know if you can see that. These tiny little stitches. So I added a couple rows today to tack down some of these squares that weren't tacked down, like these aren't. And what that enables me to do later, if I want, and the back is like that, if I want, is to cut away. Say I wanted to cut out some shape in this layer, then the rest of this would still be secured if I wanted to do that, which I may, but I don't know yet. So this is the woven base that I had done, and I noticed I did a 4x4 versus a 9 square, which is what she recommends. And I chose the woven versus the pieced, and now I feel like I do really want to try the paperless piecing technique, although it's a slippery slope. And then the last thing I realized when I was trying to add to this, and this is her one of her little leaving the knots out techniques. What I want to try, and what it really depends on with fabric, is your selection of fabric. And I learned that with the fabric book project, that it's really about the selection of threads. So I have my new stash of embroidery thread, and it looks like I'm going to be on the hunt for fabrics to upcycle. And I know some people go to Goodwill, or the problem is so many of the fabrics are these synthetic, like look at all these fabrics from the 70s. These are from scavenging at my childhood home, and they're all like these shiny polyester, I'm not sure why, type of fabrics. And so they're not that conducive to certain kinds of stitching, but they're worth investigating. And this is cheesecloth and a bunch of fabrics that were store-bought in the 1980s, back when I was sewing. So they all have memories, things that I had made. I made a Kleenex holder out of this. I made an outfit and some pillows out of this. Another outfit out of that. And these are older fabrics that my mom used before I was born. And I don't know about these, but they were found at my house. So I sat with that and really looked at what I could do with it. The conclusion was that I will probably need to hunt for more fabrics to get solids or something to put on here, because it's already pretty busy with patterns. Something I hadn't thought of when I originally made it. So I think it'll be a sampler of something. And then this was, I wanted to do this idea of cutting into fabric to weave into an existing fabric, into part of it. And so this is page 17 of the Ann Wood Stitch book. And I had started with this piece of linen napkin or placemat, which I had machine sewn on some free arm machine sewing, and then hand stitching a while back. I don't even know when. And these are some strips from my fabric yarn that I got at Scrap SF, which I really want to go back and get more of. That might be a place to get some solid color fabric, come to think of it. They had a lot of solids, and I didn't know I wanted solids at the time. And now I know that I want cottons and linens. So this I did. I wove and I pinned it down, and I will base that down along the edge and see what happens when I'm onto that page. I'm not even on that page. I think I did this. This was yesterday, but it's worth showing. I will be invisibly basting this, which is page 16, the layout. And I had originally planned to have a little button there and maybe do some hair with this figure that I have on a mostly yellow background, yellow and pink. And I'm going to try to stick with that color scheme. It's the only page in this book. This is a dyed piece of fabric. I put this in turmeric tea. So it's my first dyeing experiment with just a cotton fabric. And then this is also a dyed fabric, but it was a store-bought. So this inspiration, I want to do some stitched asemic writing on this page or this piece of fabric. And then that's the only other idea I have. The rest will emerge from the stitching. I think mostly it'll be quilting type of a stitch. And then, so that's that. I'm gonna put this in the right place. Then I did some, then I wanted to do the cover for this is the book. The thing I'm angsting about is having to teach this Saturday, just kind of getting into the mode for that and exactly what I can share in 2 hours on this subject of the creative notebook practice. No textiles. It's another thing. I'm like so into textiles right now. To get myself back into paper is a little bit of a leap that I have to make. But so I decided to decorate the cover of this current book that I'm in, that I started just for this class, so it's very new. I noticed there's a lot of faces in it. I have these faces and this face, and then so when I saw that, I made another one today. Right there, which I kind of like. And then I had some Japanese newspaper that came as the wrapping for the art yarn maker from Saori that I just got. So I just wanted to put that in there. Do not know what that is, what it says. I found this page. No one will understand your work. Do something else. Don't show it. And so I wrote, who is it? Who is that voice? And I wonder, it's interesting I wrote that down. So I have a bunch of starts. And it's kind of unusual because like these are prints like using the tip of this botanical, this dried botanical, and the top of a glue stick, which is a new technique for me that I was just trying. I've done a lot of new experiments in here that I haven't taught before and don't necessarily plan to. But, so that's part of the discovery and the challenge for getting centered. The best things I do, I cannot explain. That's how I'm feeling. Begin. And then there's some pretty complete pages, some backgrounds, some interesting call and response exercise, more botanicals. So I am just all over the place in this book. Seems like a lot of color experiments and just trying to move energy. So what I came up with for the cover is the Sumie ink with my brush, Chinese brush, ink brush. And I did a few things that are hanging up now. This started out as kind of a face, but then it just became a bunch of shapes. And then I kind of knew that I wanted the cover to say, I am here now, or I am here I am, or something like that. So that's what I started writing. And then I ended up choosing this one, which was dry when I needed it to be. Mainly the reason I chose it. So that's the cover. And I like so when I saw this against the black background, I immediately thought of some stamps that I had of moon and stars and spirals. I like the cover a lot here now. And then this is kind of an abstraction of I am. which I like this curve a lot in this brush shape. And then I really liked how this number came out and like included with this sun stamp, but it wouldn't fit on these pages, so I just put it in here. And I always love this stamp that I don't know what it is, but I really love the fact that it is. And it's a nice spread, ready to respond. So I did that's what I did today, and talking about it does feel good to just review and acknowledge and witness that this is how I showed up, and mainly not how it looks, but sealing in that feeling of settling inside myself to be here and deeply be with the movements of the practice, looking deeply, responding, and not trying to hurry through as yet another task in the day, but treating it with more reverence as a sacred time, almost of prayer and devotion.